Hello beautiful people, it's Mai here from Nintendo Life, and today we're reviewing Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration on the Nintendo Switch 2. This review was originally written by the lovely Mitch Vogel and made into a video by yours truly. Now without further ado, let's get stuck in. In 2025, Aspyr surprised players with a shadow drop of the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot on Switch 1 and 2, with the latter port especially showcasing the power of Nintendo's new handheld. This sudden release naturally spurred discussion over whether there would be ports of the latter two games in the Survivor trilogy. Though the jury's still out on whether we'll see a port of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it seems a lot more likely now that Aspyr shadow dropped Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration during the June Nintendo Direct. While the more advanced graphics of the sequel contribute to a slight hit to performance, this is an overall solid port of arguably the best entry of the Survivor trilogy. Lara's sophomore outing feels like a refinement of the strengths in its predecessor, combining big set-piece action sequences with more pensive puzzle solving in the eponymous tombs. Tie it all together with Metroidvania-esque exploration, gorgeous graphics, and all the original DLC bundled in, and you've got a great package that offers a lot of bang for your buck. Rise of the Tomb Raider is set about a year after Tomb Raider 2013, following Lara's adventures in Siberia pursuing a mysterious MacGuffin called the Divine Source, which supposedly holds the key to eternal life. But Lara isn't alone in this pursuit. An ancient shadowy organization called Trinity wants the Divine Source for its own purposes and will stop at nothing to find it first. Luckily for Lara, they don't have the same expertise in ancient history as she does, and as she races against them to uncover its location, her search is aided as she learns more about the life of an ancient messiah figure named the Prophet, whose history is inextricably linked with the Divine Source. It's not exactly the most memorable narrative, yet the plot does a great job of giving you the summer blockbuster feel as our intrepid heroine overcomes impossible odds and show-stopping set-piece moments. Lara isn't the most charismatic character, but she goes through some satisfying character development throughout her journey to becoming the titular adventurer we all know and love. Meanwhile, a cruel Trinity leader named Constantine plays the role of the main villain, stealing many of the scenes he shows up in with his cold demeanor and unrelenting commitment to his goal. He's easily the most punchable person in the game and is a highlight of the story. A rather simple and irredeemable villain such as him feels like the perfect foil for Lara. Falling in line with the series' expectations, the main gameplay loop here ultimately focuses on heavy exploration with some combat encounters peppered in to mix up the pace and put some pressure on the player. It's not exactly an open world game, but the game world features a couple of expansive hubs that you frequently return to after finishing side content, and these hubs feature plenty of secrets and collectibles to snap up between missions. As you complete tombs, gather collectibles, and kill enemies by the dozens, you also gather experience points and resources you can then use to upgrade Lara and her gear back at camp. The highlight of the experience here is easily the optional challenge tombs, which are both more frequent and more interesting than those found in the game's predecessor. Each of these tombs is designed somewhat like a miniature dungeon from the old Zelda games, built around a central gimmick or puzzle element that you need to decipher to get to the treasure at the end. One of our favourites, the Ancient Cistern, is built around a high central tower surrounded by water, and Lara needs to puzzle out how to gradually raise the water level so she can reach the treasure at the top. Not only is each tomb memorable and distinct, but they all largely manage to hit that fine balancing point between challenge and simplicity. When you finally figure out what's needed to solve the puzzle, there's a wonderful sense of satisfaction that comes when finally reaching the end, and this is reinforced by you also being given some sort of new skill or ability. Even when it's not exploring a tomb, exploration feels rewarding given that each hub exchanges sheer size for content density. There are hidden relics, treasure maps, caches, and huntable animals seemingly every few feet, routinely rewarding the player for scouring every corner. There are also some side quests with NPCs that usually prompt you to return to previously completed areas, giving you new challenges to overcome while granting an opportunity to mop up any collectibles you may have missed the first time around. This is the sort of well-paced game that does a great job of both giving you lots of rewarding things to explore and uncover, while also not hosing you down with meaningless content bloat and empty activities. Combat, on the other hand, doesn't fare nearly as well. While stealth sections are satisfyingly tense and give you plenty of options for distracting and taking down foes, enemy encounters tend to fall apart when the bullets start flying. Though Lara has a solidly versatile and growing arsenal of weapons to respond with, the shooting controls feel too stiff and are rather unsatisfying to navigate using the Joy-Con. This is something that would hopefully be solved with the newly added gyro controls, but they maddeningly only work when examining relics in Lara's inventory. Gyro controls simply don't apply at all to shooting sections. You can somewhat get around the control issue by enabling mouse mode, but this itself proves to be awkward due to how the Joy-Con simply doesn't feel great in the hand as a mouse and still requires you to utilize the face buttons even when held on its side. The good news is that combat encounters are only maybe 30% of the total experience. They're a core part of the gameplay loop, but you'll spend the vast majority of your time crawling around tombs and digging up relics. And while the shooting controls are disappointing, fights usually don't last long enough to overstay their welcome and really highlight the deficiencies. This being the complete edition of a decade-old game, there's a decent amount of additional content from later DLC editions that's been seemingly integrated into the core game. The highlights are some story-focused quest chains that task you from exploring the famed Croft Manor, and with tracking down the Baba Yaga witch in a new tomb, both of which feel like a natural extension of the best parts of the original campaign. Additionally, there are some more arcade additions, such as a roguelite mode and a zombie survival mode, both of which help to remix existing content and give you a bit more to chew on once you've hit 100% completion. Regarding the graphical presentation, Rise of the Tomb Raider showcases the strengths of the Switch 2 hardware through the stunning visuals on display here. The grimy, crumbling environments of the tombs are fully realized with impressive detail, as features like cobwebs hanging off skeletons and the soft light emanating from Lara's glow stick help to give the environments meaningful texture and contribute lots to the immersion. Character models are also well detailed and animated, with the much touted Tress Effects hair making an appearance here for realistic motion as Lara's ponytail sways with the action. All this runs as a smooth 1080p and 30 FPS in both docked and handheld, with no significant drops to be found even in the busier sections. Granted, it's a little disappointing Aspyr couldn't get this one to 60 FPS even in docked mode to match its predecessor, but this game was a notable visual step up when it first launched back in the day, and a stable 30 FPS still feels adequate for the gameplay. As is often the case for these kind of ports, the absolute best performance and presentation is traded for the ability to play the game portably with no content cuts. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a great addition to the Switch 2 library, standing as a strong example of the vision of the platform offering full-fat home console gaming on the go. Satisfying exploration, incredible visuals, and loads of content all running at a smooth 30 FPS combine to make this a must-have buy for your personal library, even if a forgettable story and some occasionally wonky controls hold this one back from perfection. We suggest you pick this one up at the best available opportunity. It'll keep you busy for a while, and it's especially the kind of game that really shines in handheld. We here at Nintendo Life give Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration on the Nintendo Switch 2 an 8 out of 10. And now I suppose it's time for my thoughts. I've had a long history with the Tomb Raider series. In fact, the first trilogy were some of the first games that I ever played. So when they had the Survivor trilogy come out, over 10 years ago, I was so excited to see a new rehash of the franchise. Although I do still love Rise of the Tomb Raider, the first of the Survivor series is my favorite out of the three. Saying that, I had a whale of a time jumping back into this for the video, and it's crazy to think that the last time I played this was about 11 years ago. It's just bonkers. And although I originally played it on the Xbox One or even possibly the 360, because hey, it was a console exclusive for the first year, if you didn't know that, it felt like I was riding a bike, you know? I knew where every little secret was. I was able to tell what was coming up, and considering that I've only completed the game maybe a handful of times. However, although playing the original version of the game, I didn't really have access to the DLC, so being able to run around Croft Manor, discovering some of the mysteries, as well as trying out some of the new DLC that wasn't available in the original game. It was just really brilliant. Although saying that, the one thing that I was not looking forward to whilst replaying this game was seeing the wolves, and then discovering that there was such a thing as jaguars in this, which is something I hated in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But that's for another time, for whenever Aspyr decide to do a Switch 2 version of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The one thing that really threw me off though whilst playing this, because I've mostly played it as a console, so using a controller rather than playing it handheld and having the controls so close to it, I found it really difficult to play with it handheld. I don't know if it's because the Joy-Con is a little bit more sensitive in the analog sticks compared to the Pro controller, but I just had a better time playing it docked. Performance-wise, there wasn't really any much difference. It was just mostly me and not enjoying how sensitive the Joy-Cons were. And I know the game is about 11 years old, but it just makes me so happy to see games like this in the series coming to the Switch 2, making sure that more people are exposed to how great these stories are. Now, I am a huge lover of open world games, but much like its predecessor, Tomb Raider 2013, it really makes me happy that they've kind of more gone to the hub world approach rather than being overwhelmed by vast open space. Because I tell you what, there's more than enough things to discover, more than enough collectibles to find to keep you busy for ages. And I will no doubt be returning to Rise of the Tomb Raider very shortly in order to 100% myself in the game, as well as get all the in-game achievements, which is always a nice little surprise. Now, if you need me, I've got some tombs I need to raid.